Hello and welcome back. Today I want to talk a bit about shadow work. Yes, everyone's favorite. I believe, however, that shadow work has received a bad rep, and that the reality is shadow work is one of the best things we can do on our healing journey. Now, no one on this planet escapes childhood unscathed. I believe it is designed that way on purpose. In childhood, we experience challenges that are often too much for our limited abilities, and so we set them aside for later. This is an amazing survival adaptation, and it works even in some of the most dire situations. Unfortunately, at some point in our lives, these brilliant adaptations become maladaptive and start affecting our lives in a negative fashion. So maybe we used avoidance to get through our childhood. Maybe we shrunk back into the woodwork, so to speak, and became invisible. Maybe we lashed out with anger. Maybe we just stuffed everything down and trudged on. Whatever we learned, chances are very good that these same behaviors are the ones we continue to rely on as adults, but they almost never work now. Many of us never even realized that this is what we were doing. We just respond or react as we always have and wonder why it doesn't work, or rationalize that it must be other people that are to blame, or that we are just not lucky this time around. The other effect of having these experiences as a child is that we tend to expect them later on. So, as much as we want to be happy consciously, our unconscious inner self is always whispering, "Don't believe it. You're not that lucky. You really don't deserve to be happy. You are not worthy." Now, there are a plethora of adaptations to try and get what we want/need in the world when we are carrying these types of messages, but they all typically fall short. And though it may seem that they work at first, sooner or later the shadow rears its head and things fall apart. So basically, what we call shadows are really survival adaptations from childhood. Doesn't sound so bad worded like that. Honestly, they served their purpose well. They allowed us to continue on our path until such time as we were more prepared to deal with whatever our particular flavor of trauma was. Personally, I find that astounding. And while, yes, now they may trip us up, get in our way, and make life a pain in the ass sometimes, I believe we owe them gratitude for being what they were designed to do. It's just important to understand that they do have limitations. At some point, they stop working. So, what do we do now? Well, first of all, to fix any problem, it is necessary to realize that a problem exists. It is also necessary to accept the fact that the problem exists inside of us. It's important to understand that blaming someone else for whatever our issues are is not going to get us anywhere. Now, I'm not trying to discourage you from getting angry about whatever may have happened to you. I'm not trying to say that it's okay not to put responsibility where it belongs. But once we've done that, once we've allowed ourselves to accept that it was not that we weren't worthy, it was not that we didn't try hard enough, it was not that we just weren't good enough, and all the resulting anger that goes with that, then at some point it's important to move past it. If we live our lives as the person that had this or that happen to us as children, then we can expect more of that same, even if it's different flavor. After all, the universe responds to our vibration, not to the things we say we want. It responds to what we expect and what we believe. So back to shadow work. The more conscious we become, the more patterns start to emerge. Like, whenever I do this, then this is what happens. For example, if we are always preparing for the worst, which is a great tool as a child, as an adult we can expect bad things to happen. So something needs to change. When we recognize that it is not only our responsibility to change it, but that at this point in life no one else has the ability to do so for us, then we are ready. For me, meditation helps a lot. It's a way to change my brainwave pattern from the conscious mind to something closer to the unconscious, which is where the problem exists. At this point, I can start to give myself new messages. When I recognize that a particular coping mechanism is no longer serving me, it's time for me to do some writing. Sometimes writing about a situation is enough to open a channel to that part of ourselves, so to speak, and get to the heart of the problem. As I write, I naturally identify things that are associated with my current dilemma. When I feel like I've written as much as I need to about a certain situation, then I like to read it to someone I trust. Or if no one is available, I will read it out loud. Then I take a piece of paper and pencil and I write statements such as, I now release my pain around X. I now release such and such behavior. I no longer allow my fear to dictate my behavior. I make it as specific to the situation as possible. Typically, I end up with one side of a paper full of these types of sentences, but sometimes it takes two or more. Once I am satisfied that I have covered the bases, I read it out loud at least 3 times, then I take it outside and burn it. I give gratitude to these shadows for helping me survive, and in a kind way I explain that I can no longer continue to rely on them, that they simply cannot go where I am headed. Depending on how big the issue is, I may not be able to release it all in one shot, and may have to do it again in the future. In this way, I honor myself and at the same time allow these parts of me to release. Typically, I feel lighter almost immediately. I am no longer carrying around a burden that requires some portion of my energy to tote. I believe at this point in history, as we begin to raise the collective consciousness, it is very important to leave this baggage behind. I don't believe it is possible to raise my vibration to a point that is compatible with the next stage and still carry around this baggage from my past. So if anything I have said resonates with you, I encourage you to try this method or modify it to suit you specifically. The bottom line is, shadow work leads to peace. I think we can never have too much of that.